peace of my mind. Fear falls away, crack the shell of a new day.
Abora boy, good morning. Ekaro, this is Olu Fakola Dev Edin Kai for Temple. We welcome you to our temple service today. Thank you for joining us. You could be anywhere you wanted to be, but you wanted to be with us. So thank you for joining us. So today our topic is Gbagbe, which means I remember. So I want to begin with morning prayers. So let us begin. Oromila, 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 Lere, Funibikejo, Loromare, Ajuju Bonapeti Jokoda, Oromi Tobajai, Orobi Jigo, Oromi Jigo, Garibu, Ododo Tindumi. I'm on full of love, Olomi Amoimoto, Akomotan Kushi, Abontan Iba Sheke, Ujuba Kora, Kora, Tinko, Wainka, Ujuba Shera, Shera, Tinko, Wagner around. Alawa, Orumila, if I be about Kuko Day, if I be about Kuko Day, Orumi, I'll be on the sure. Jogbe, he hears people, please accept, please. He hears people, please, please. He talks to people, and shows talks completely absorbed. He hears people, please, accept, please, never stop. He hears people, please, please, never show die. He talks to people, shows talks completely absorbed. His name was Shani. Or Shani, the person most being. The person most one cannot fail to impress one. Strike frogs when comes rainfall. Both frogs when comes downpour. It is whatever the accurate original poem, true to the earth, whether it accepts. Whatever the river tells us, whether it accepts all what I tell you, if I please accept them and approve them, I share. If I please accept our prayers. O Turete, to show gratitude upon gratitude of our gratitude, to display benevolence upon benevolence is the other of benevolence. Whoever not show gratitude, be us safe benevolence, such a person I've seen today's duty. Please decorate Sifa to the 401 in Rumela, and going to Mariopoe, Otterish Fuji. Please also decorate Sifa to a Rumela, going to Mariopoe, Otterish Fuji. I'm grateful I see my duty. I'm grateful yesterday for I see today's duty. O Turete, we're very grateful. Share. Awa dupe, awa bure. Awa dupe o, awa bure. Adupe ana ura ore tudnebu olodumare. Awa dupe, awa bure. Awa dupe o, awa bure. Adupe ana ura ore tudnebu. Awa dupe, awa bure. Awa dupe o, awa bure. Adupe ana ura ore tudnebu erum. Awa dupe, awa bure. Awa dupe o, awa bure. Adupe ana ura ore tudnebu legun lorisha. Lord, the mind, the divinities. We thank you for life, health, strength, food, clothing, and shelter. We thank you for all the things that you have provided for us. We ask that you would forgive us. Forgive us for anything that we might have done wrong, anything that we may have done incorrectly, any taboo we might have broken. We call on Eros and Tutu, pounded down with our soup being very difficult to consume. These were decorations thought to a Tutu. The child of Gbagbe Ragon, he was full of bad characters. His bad attitude had prevented him from into 2,000 men. Now comes his list on behalf of the Tutu. We've come to beg on behalf of the Tutu. Father, please be patient, overlook this provocation. Those who beg on behalf of the Tutu. Aruna responded by saying those who beg on behalf of the Tutu. Those who solicit on behalf of the Tutu. How many children does Ifa have that he will cast one out? Those who beg on behalf of the Tutu. Oh Lord Dumare, please forgive us. Ifa, please forgive us. Forgive us for anything that we might have done wrong, incorrect, anything that we may have done that has offended you. Ifa, please support us and forgive us. We ask also, Olodumare, that you would ward off all death, ward off all sickness, cases, controversy, ward off fights, litigation, losses in our fights from us. Bring forth to us long life, wealth, good spouse, good children, peace of mind, healing, joy, victory, all the good things of life. We call on the Oduifa Ogbelara, Orumla says, we call on Ogbelara, Orumla says, sleep, I put his time to sleep. When the day dawned, met a Rumla in the 16th room, where he covered his head with a flowing down flow of life. He was dressed through bloodstains. He was snoring heavily. They told him that delegate from his heart to heart. A Rumla inquired about what the delegate brought. They told him they brought 2 rats with running, 2 fish racing to me, 2 birds took in flight, 2 girls with big livers. A Rumla said, that's not enough to wake him up. I admit my ignorance, please educate me. What's an Akaraba? I have myself in your bosom and survive. What's an Akaraba? The dog can my spirit beats, I got you repeatedly. Dog can my spirit beats, I got you repeatedly to perform because of children. You are the leaders, we are the followers. Leaders are the ones who show the followers wisdom. Aruna told them to get alligator pepper, to get cola nut, to get bitter corn, to get alcohol. The couple got the alligator pepper, got the corn nut, got the bitter corn, and got the alcohol. That is now that he's fully awake. Aruna, when you are fully awake, please look at me without your compassion. Is without your compassion, the heavenly stars. Use and look at the stars below. Aruna, when you're fully awake, please look at me without your help one to secure wealth in such good eyes that the heavenly stars, use and look at the stars below. Arumla, when you are fully awake, please look at me with your eyes which help one to secure a good spouse. In such good eyes my spouse should use and look at me with. Arumla, when you are fully awake, please look at me with your eyes which help one to bear many children. In such good eyes a child should use and look over there at a well-decorated plate. Before long, let's for join us in the midst of our living life. Father, support us. We call on Oshe Aruela. We ask the Father that you would continue to ward off all death, ward off sickness, ward off cases, controversy, ward off fights, litigation, losses, and our fights from us. Bring forth to us long life, wealth, healing, joy, victory, healing, success, all good things of life. Let them come to all of us now. Ward off all the ajogu. Father, we ask that you would move my ego out of the way so that you can hear good, so that we can hear good Ifa. We can hear a word from Olodumare. We ask that you would support us in this. Emma kamemena, Emma kamemena, Emma kamemena diloku, etamule tori Ifa lonimi, ebora timpanimi, enebanami, àwọn àti Ifa lelejo, àṣẹ Ifa. Shit, Aruela, tiny other feet of Tubu. The cycle coming in is not big enough to use its headgear. Had I been enough to use its headgear, would have taken it home and drawn my holiday. Easy thoughts, decorations to Aruela, and going on spiritual mission to Jebelin. You can't look to send pay money, can't start to make rich. Come on, Aruela, respecting the Jebelin. Shit, Aruela, to get a wool. Shit, Tora, I kick in by guitar. We actually trouble against the tree test stuff for room. And he's to be by not share from a little man. And what says wealthy, surely be wealthy. I kick in bagisa in the mouth of an hour, as Ibana say, in the mouth of an hour. No, she's joy, you surely have joy. I kick in bagisa in the mouth of an hour, as Ibana say, in the mouth of an hour. No, she's have victory, surely victory. I kick in bagisa in the mouth of an hour, as Ibana say, in the mouth of an hour. Top essay, maybe so surely shall it be. Àṣẹ òrìṣà lẹ́nu mi ò àṣẹ òrìṣà lẹ́nu mi. Owó tí mo bá màmá wí o, ìrúnmọ́lẹ̀ ò bà. Ifá ò bá o, àṣẹ òrìṣà lẹ́nu mi. Àbímọ dúró tí mo súre. Bí mo bẹ̀rẹ̀ tí mo súre. Bí mo kúnlẹ̀ tí mo súre. Timo Joko, Timo Shure, Ire Timo Su Oritibo. Now, if we can hold our heads. Orieni la rure yeni o, Orieni la rure yeni. Mojula mi fa wa mori, Orieni la rure yeni. Ashe. Bobore chazu, Ifa ọba lọ́run, àtìbà chájú, Ifa ọba lọ́run. Ó ṣe àrú ìlà Ifá ti bọ́. All of the mind of divinity, we ask that you would come and support us. Please continue to ward off death, ward off sickness, ward off cases, controversy, ward off fights, litigation, losses, and outright fights, witchcraft, negative forces. Bring forth to us success, joy, healing, victory. Help us to be the best human beings that we can be. Ashe, help us to hear a word from you, Olodumare. Olodumare. Ashe, Ashe, Ashe. Abora boy, thank you all for joining us. Once again, this is Idin Kai Temple. I'm Oluo Fakolade, and we welcome you. Ekabo, Ekabo. Thank you so much for joining us. So today is going to be a very unique service because we want to talk about Isheshe. We want to talk about tradition. We want to talk about traditionalism. So the concept that we are dealing with today is the same theme as the pilgrimage, Ifa World Ifa Orisha pilgrimage in Ado Ekiti. And the theme for our pilgrimage this year with the ICIR, International Council for Ifa Religion, and the pilgrimage for that, and the Odun Ifa was Gbagbe. Gbagbe. That word or that concept means I remember. I remember. So, in terms of this idea of remembrance, when we think of the concept of remembrance, it is important for us to note that the ancient aspects of our tradition are essential to connect and reconnect and realign with the very, very, very ancient, old aspects of Ifa. Currently, it is the year 2023 on the Gregorian calendar. But for the Yoruba, the Odua people, this is the year 10,065. So when we think about that, our people, our lineage, our Yoruba nation has been measuring time for at least 10,000 years. This predates the majority of the world religions, that the Yoruba people coming together as a nation, as a group, saying that we have been measuring time and in existence for over 10,065 years. Very powerful. So when we think about that, what are the old ways? What are the traditional ways that we need to remember? Because in essence, what we're saying is that in some way, we have forgot on the continent and also within the diaspora. Many of us have forgotten. But when we speak of this forgetting, it's much more complicated than what many people might think on the surface. Let us analyze it using another African concept from the Ghanaian people of the Akan Ashanti people who live in current Ghana. which was once known as Ashantiland. The concept is Sankofa. Sankofa is a symbol that is so important to us. And I've talked about it before. I tried to use that symbol on our temple um, emblem with the red parrot, the gray parrot, African gray parrot, looking backward like a Sankofa bird. That is where I got that concept from. But what does Sankofa mean? It means go back and fetch it. Go back and fetch it. It means there is no taboo to go back and fetch that which was left behind. So when we think about this idea of going back and fetching that which is left behind, the Akan are so sophisticated and adept, and the symbol of Sankofa is a vulture that is moving forward, looking backward with an egg in its beak. Moving forward is the present. Looking backward is the past. Holding the egg is the future. Very powerful symbol that our African ancestors have come up with. And it's not unlike Gbagbe when we think of it. Many of us are in Ifa. And as we're coming to Ifa, what we're coming to Ifa for is to put the pieces together of a past that was stolen and ravaged by colonialism, stolen and ravaged by, enslavement. And we cannot overlook what happened. We can't overlook that. Any person that is an Ifa practitioner has to understand that the way that you got into this is a result of the transatlantic slave trade. If you are in the diaspora and on the continent, if you are involved in African spirituality, if you are involved in Ifa, you have to understand that the representation of you being involved in this system is a political, cultural, and spiritual statement in the face of colonialism. You cannot deny this. We can't talk around it and be cute about avoiding the conversation of racism and white supremacy involved in our systems of African spirituality. We can't. Gbagbe, I remember. When we think about this idea of remembrance, it is the remembrance of the self that was untampered with before colonialism. It is the remembrance of the self that was untampered with before the transatlantic slave trade. It is the remembrance of the self that was in existence before the ravages of self-hate and degradation. Gbagbe, I remember. Gbagbe, this idea of remembrance is about tradition. It is about Isheshe. We as African people, we as people within the diaspora must understand and recognize that we have been established and establishing nations for over 10,000 years. So when we remember, we restore ourself. When we remember, we restore our self-esteem. We restore our self-determination. When we remember, we restore the humanity of African people. That is what I want to talk about today. So, remembering our ancestral ways, Ifa says in Iwori Ogunda, Iwori Aweda, one's destiny is not amenable with strong charms. Instead, Ifa advised us to use Ebo to amend it. This was Ifa cast for Oganjobi, who declared that he would not worship Orisha again and chose to worship other people's ancestors. Unknown to him, another person's ancestor does not give one support. I will only plead for pardon on one of my predicaments. If the hunchback refuses to go, let the crippled legs be straightened. When we think of this Odu, when we think of this verse of Ifa, Ifa is saying so much here. What I want us to focus on is this. Cast Ifa for Oganjobi, who declared he would not worship Orisha again and chose to worship other people's ancestors. Very interesting. In this process of the transatlantic slave trade, colonialism, this negative environment that has had an effect on us, it's important to note that perhaps in the process we have come to honor and respect and value and worship the ancestors of another. Ifa says very clearly, unknown to him, that other people's ancestors do not give one support. In honoring the ancestors of another, and not remembering yourself and not remembering your ancestors, other people's ancestors will not give you support. There's a blood tie. It's a blood tie. My ancestors support me because they're of my bloodline. It is so very important to remember. We must remember our ways. Ifa says in Ogunda Arosum, Ifa says, if we had been listening to Ifa's advice, we would have lasted a long time as well as our ancestors. If we had been following the precepts of Okwe, we would have lived to advanced age, just like our ancestors. The sharp pointed curved knife. These were Ifa's declarations to those to Iko the Ho, or Nire Sambe's son from the village of Ire. A new hoe is used to forge a thin rod. A new hoe is used to forge a thick rod. When the blacksmith wakes up, he is surrounded by old men. Ifa is telling us it is important to value the ways of the old ones. It is important to value the ways and actions of the elders. So many of you know I'm just getting back from Nigeria, just getting back from Ado Ekiti, where we did the World Ifa Orisha Festival and Pilgrimage. And it was very powerful. When we think of this experience, when I think of that experience, the other thing I think about is meeting chiefs, awos, meeting kings. I remember meeting the king of Gbagbe land in Ekiti, and he is at least 101. He looked very, very well. He looked very young and well taken care of. When I think about that, let us value the ways of the old ones. Let us do our best to live a long, advanced life like our ancestors did. I think of the Babalao that I met. He was the Apwete of Aduakiti. He was 99, very sharp. let us value the ways of the old ones. The old ones will bring wisdom. And one thing I see in the West, sadly, is not very many elders who are involved in the system of Ifa. Sadly, hopefully, as the years progress, we can have solid, sound elders who can advise us because it's very challenging sometimes not having. When I say elders, I'm talking like 80 to 100 years old. So important. So, in terms of this, I want to go more into this theme of Kamabagbe and Sankofa and remembrance in relation to the place of Ado Akiti. And I just want to talk about for a bit, why is Ado Akiti important? Why is that particular place important? Why are we there? Why are we casting Ifa on Okegeti? Why are we casting an Odu there in that particular spot? What does that mean? So let us use Ifa to support our statements. Ifa says in Ejiogbe, the giant pot rolled across the road and broke into pieces. Ifa's message for the 401 Irumole when going to Olofin's palace on Ifa mission, they were advised to offer a bow. The same was advised for Ori when going to Olofin's house on Ifa mission. They were advised to offer a bow. Only Ori complied. Odu, ye bidi bidi, jana bambo. Ifa's message for the 401 Irumole when going to challenge Ori to a fight for supremacy. The same message was given for Ori when going to fight for supremacy. They were advised to offer a bow. Only Ori complied. Ori was the one who threw and settled Ogun in Ire Iketi. Ori is better than them all. When Ori has settled them, it is a comfortable place for me. Ori is the one who threw and settled Shango in Itile land. Ori is better than them all. Where Ori has settled them is a comfortable place for me. Ori threw and settled Oshun and Igede land. Ori is better than them all. Where Ori has settled me, it is a comfortable place for me. Ori threw and settled Orumila in Oke Igeti Hill. Ori is better than them all. It is where Ori has settled me is a comfortable place for me. Ori threw and settled Obatala in Iranji land. Where Ori has settled me is a comfortable place. Ori threw and settled Orisha Oko in Irawo land. Ori is better than them all. Where Ori has sent me, has settled me, it is a comfortable place for me. Ori threw and settled Eshuodara in Ijelu land. Ori is better than them all. Where Ori has settled me, it is a comfortable place for me. Ori is the supporter of them all. Whoever Ori throws and settles cannot be there cannot be successfully emulated. Wherever Ori throws and settles one, that is where one is expected to stay and live. Ashe. What is Ifa saying? So if you listen to this verse carefully, you read it carefully, Ifa is saying that the home of Ogun is Ire Iketi. We went and visited Ire Ikiti, excuse me. And when we visited Ire Ikiti, we were able to meet the Oba, who is the king, and also a living descendant of the divinity, the Irumole known as Ogun. This Odu says, the home of Shango is Itile land. The home of Oshun is Egede land. When we went to Ikiti, there's a place known as uh, Egede Ikiti, and this is the home of Oshun. This is the place which is the start, the base, the support, the source of the Oshun River. Is there. In this Odu, it says the home of Obatala is Iranji land. The home of Orisha Oko is Irawo land. The home of Eshodar is Ejelu land. We went to Ejelu Ekiti, where Orumi or Eshodar went into the ground and came up out of the ground. And where he came up out of the ground, there's an abundance of Yangi stone, just literally growing out of the ground in Ejelu. So when we think of the home of these Irumole, there's a thing that is left behind that says this is their spot, this is their place. There's literally a natural phenomena and what some would consider to be paranormal phenomena in all of these places. This Odu says the home of Orumila is Oke Igeti. So while we were there in Ikiti, we went to Okegeti and Okeolota. We climbed to the top of this mountain, and on top of that hill, found some of the original implements, literally, of Oromila. Without going into too many details, at the top of this mountain, there's literally a stone carved open, and this is the place. It is carved literally out of stone into the mountain, and this is the place where Orunmila performed his miracle, where he initiated people to Ifa. Ikiti, um, Okegidi, and Adoakiti is the home of Orunmila. When we say that, what we're also saying is it is so very important to make note that Orunmila was a king in Ado Ekiti. Orunmila was actually the Ewi Ado. He was the king in that area. We went to the palace of the Ewi Ado. And when we look at that palace and we look at that Oba, that king, he is a little different because he is a living descendant of Orunmila. So in seeing him, what does that mean? What does that demonstrate to us? We've heard songs. Atoto, here we are. This song is talking about Orunmila. It's also talking about calm, be cool. Let us hear the sacred words of Ewi Ado. Ewi Ado is actually a praise name for Orunmila. So Orumila, he made his home. He became a king. All of his sacred implements, he made that place his place where he also had many of his children, and his children are there, and those children are actually part of the monarchy in various places. So, this is the significance of this place. We visited in this very powerful pilgrimage. We were able to visit and see literally the actions, the manifestation of our faith. It's a difference when you don't see. It's something. There's things that you cannot unsee. And while I was there were things I can't go back and be like, okay, no, no, no. You can't unsee it. There's so many things that happened that were powerful, miraculous, and literally while we were there, we saw miracles occur. So, come on back, big. Let us remember. While we were in Adoakiti, I want to share a little bit as I close of the Odu of the year. While we were there, the Awos cast the Odu Ogunda Oshe. It came in Ire Aje Tutu. But interesting enough, the Odu that was cast completely relates to the theme of why we were there. Let me tell you the story. So, in the old days, the king Oduduwa, he had commissioned Ogun as a mercenary to go and wage war, colonize, and bring various people groups into the order of the reign of that crown. So he commissioned Ogun to go and bring a particular town into the fold. And as Ogun did this, he went, waged war, and he was bringing all of the spoils of war from a particular town. And as he was doing this, he met a woman in the town, Akange, and he fell in love with her. And as Ogun fell in love with this woman, he brought all the spoils of war to Oduduwa. And he decided that he wanted to marry Akange and keep her for himself. So he, he took all of those riches to Oduduwa and he brought Akange to his home and they began to make a home for themselves. They fell in love, one thing led to another, and Akange was pregnant. In the process, Eshu spoke to Oduduwa and he said, Oduduwa, did Ogun bring you all of the spoils of the war? Oduduwa said, yes, he brought me everything, everything that I have, I've got. And Eshu says, what about the woman? Oduduwa was surprised. What woman? I've not heard of this woman. What are you speaking of? At that moment, Eshu relayed the story. And Oduduwa approached Ogun and said, Oduduwa, you didn't bring me everything from this war. What of the woman? And he forced Ogun to give Akange to Oduduwa himself, even against her own will and against Ogun's own will. So Oduduwa took possession of her and made her one of his wives. Shortly thereafter, she gave birth, and Oduduwa raised the boy as if he were his own. As the boy grew up, he was bigger than everyone else. He was stronger than everyone else. At this time, I believe they called him Oronloyum. And he was doing all these things that were exorbitant feats of strength. He was rough, strong, powerful. He had Herculean, if we want to use that, strength, supernatural strength. And he was able to go to other nations and convince them to join the fold. And if they didn't join the fold, he was able to bring them into submission by force. When he came back, they gave him the name Oromiyan. My matter has become a success. And as Oromiyan proceeded, his father, Oduduwa, left and went back to Orun. And he left Oromiyan in charge. Oromiyan became the king, and he was then establishing the nations of the Yoruba people. Within the process, the nation fell on very, very hard times. And the hard times became perpetual. And it got to a point where Oromiyan decided to consult Ifa. He went for Ifa consultation, and the Babalao told him, you need to offer a bow and feed the ancestors of your father. Oromiyan was like, that's simple, my father's Oduduwa. He offered a bow, and he went to propitiate the shrine of Oduduwa as his ancestral father. And nothing happened. Everything got worse. He went again and cast Ifa. Ifa said, go, the Babalao said, go and offer a bow. And when you offer a bow, then go and feed the ancestors of your father. Once again, Oromiyan went and did that again. Of course, to no avail. And he did this consecutively for months, for years even. And the nation began to go into even more peril, and to the point where it was plummeting. Oromiyan was feverish and angry, and he said, Babalao, you are of no skill. You have no skill. I've offered a bow, I've fed my ancestors, I've fed my paternal ancestors, and nothing has changed. The Babalao said, go and speak to your mother. My mother. Go and speak to your mother. Oromiyan spoke, no, go and speak to your mother. Ask her the questions, and then do the ritual. At this moment, Oromiyan, king, leader of nations, approached his mother, Akange, and he said, Mother, what's going on? I've been propitiating my father, Oduduwa, all this time. This is the only father I know. And da 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 da. She said, stop. What happened many years ago has been forgotten. But the story is this: I met your father and we fell in love. I became pregnant, and then Oduduwa took me from your father and claimed me as his wife. Your father is not Oduduwa. Your father is Ogun. And that was when Oromion had the clarity. All his life, he thought his father was someone else. And when he was finally able to offer the right abo and feed his ancestors, that is when the nation came back together. This is the Odu that fell for us in Adokiti, Ogundashe. What is Ifa saying? Among many other things, Ifa is saying, Kama Gbagbe, I remember. Remember your traditions. Remember Isheshe. Remember your ancestors. It was the moment that Oromion remembered. That is when everything came back together. And it also means sometimes you got to remember stuff that you were never told. Sometimes you have to do your very best to remember things that are ancestral, that are in your DNA, and you have to inspect in order to come into alignment so that you can transform. Ifa is saying that we need to come back into the fold of Ifa, to remember what the purpose of this is or was in the first place. Who is Orunmila? And why is Orunmila significant? Let us focus on what Orunmila would do and follow his story. Ashe. So, thank you all so much for listening. I pray that what we have shared has been something that has been very good and transformative to all of us. So, with that, a couple of things. So, a few announcements. One, we've those of you who are members of Edin Kaifa Temple, we have done Itarogun. Itarogun was done, we cast the Odu for Itarogun last week. And the Odu was Ogunda Kete. Ifa is saying, I was not able to upload messages because, of course, I was out of the country. But with our Itarogun Odu of Ogunda Erete, we came in Ire, but Ifa says that there are some very serious challenges coming from the direction of three enemies in particular who want to really do us in. And then also, what we want, or what the abo is for, is offering support so that we have three enemies, three very prominent enemies, and we will have three very prominent supporters who come to our aid, come to our back. Along with that, what is also going on for the temple right now is we're praying for 16 consecutive days around all of the things that we want to bring into fruition. So that is for our Itarogun. So if you would like to contribute, please contribute for the Itarogun. The contribution is $40 per family. You can make the contribution at any of at PayPal or on Cash App. So as I said before, you can go to the website. So Itarogun is it. has been, a bow I believe has been offered. Is offered in Nigeria. So those of you who want to participate, please do. Also, next announcement, we need to offer a bow for the Odun Ifa Odu of Ogundashe. There are very specific, particular things we need to do immediately. One particular verse is around protecting the young ones, protecting the children. Excuse me. And the abo is black hen, black sheep, and black female sheep. And all of these will be offered to Iroko tree. So if you are interested, I will be publicizing all these things on the website and on Instagram and so on. So if you're interested in participating in any of these bows, please contribute. But when you contribute, let us know which thing you are contributing to. Okay, so that we'll know where to focus the money. All right. So we're doing Itarogun. We need to do this bow for the Oduni Fa. So please support the temple in accomplishing these things. Also, those of you who know, me and my wife are expecting another child. So the baby is coming in July. So we're having, instead of a baby shower, having a baby spray. I've uploaded all of that information on Instagram and also the website. So if you're interested in supporting us in the endeavor of growing our family and all those wonderful things, you can. And also the meal train after the birth, so that everything can be kind of maintained and have ease on the family. You can most definitely make contributions there as well. Thank you so much. There's so many things to focus on, but with Olodumare, we'll be able to accomplish them all. Also, this coming week, this Friday, we'll be having conversations with Ifa. And I just want to go over some general things and kind of keep our community together and thriving. Those of you who are in the Los Angeles area, very soon we'll be focusing on not only online, but also on ground meetings. So we're looking for a space that can accommodate us. So those of you who are interested in what we're doing, the website is below. You can definitely go there. If you want to make donations, if you want to publicize the things that we're doing, please feel free. We need all the support that we can get because we're growing. And with that, I just want to thank you all for supporting us. And with that, I want to close with prayer. Olodumare, we thank you for life, health, strength, food, clothing, and shelter. We thank you for all the things that you've supported us in doing. We ask that you would help us to remember and also know the right way to go, to listen to the voice of wisdom so that we can accomplish, find, follow, and fulfill our destinies. Aboro, Aboye, Aboshishe, Aboto. Thank you all so very much for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you in week 3. We do our temple services, our Ile Juba, first week and second week, first Sunday and third Sunday of each month. So we look forward to seeing you right here. Aboraboye, Aboshishe, Aboto, Amolu Fakola De of Idin Kaifa Temple, and we thank you.
Alone for this time, returning to the peace of my mind.